Hey everybody, Joe here with Speedway Motors Tech Talk, and we're here today with Loni Unser to talk about racing seats and how to find the one that's the right size for you. And I think the first question is, why is it so important to have a seat that fits you?
Seat fitment is so important when you're in a race car, and it's often something that's overlooked. So if you sit too loose in the race car, you're going to expend too much energy doing what you need to do as a driver. Whereas if you're nice and snug in the seat, you won't be moving around so much, and you'll be able to be much more precise with your movements. So when I first started racing, I sat in seats that were way too big for me, and I would have to fill it in with a bunch of padding. So that does two things. Basically, you can't feel what's happening with the car when you have so much padding in your seat. So you want to get as close kind of to the back and to the bare bones of the seat as possible. And then also you're still going to have a little bit too much movement in your body. And what too much movement in your body does is it makes your movements of shifting gears, of looking where you want to look, very unprecise. So to be nice and snug in the seat helps eliminate mistakes. And in racing, making mistakes can cost you everything.
So the next obvious question is, how do you measure for a seat?
So what you need for figuring out the proper seat fitment is going to be two blocks. They could be wooden blocks or they could be cinder blocks, just so long as they're square. I prefer to have longer ones than shorter ones. It helps your measurement kind of be more precise, and you're going to need a measuring tape. What you're going to do is you're going to sit in between those blocks and keep them square to the widest point of your hip while you're sitting down. And then once you get that measurement, you want to keep them square, and maybe you may want to get out a carpenter's square. That's up to you if you want to be super precise, but we're looking for round numbers here. And then from there, you will keep those blocks in the same position after you've hopped out, and then measure the width of those blocks. So once you have your width of your blocks set up, you can hop down, and then we're going to measure from inside to inside here, and that's really important. So we'll take the tape measure, go from the inside and to this inside. So you're actually at about just under 16 inches. And the important thing there is when looking at a seat, you always want to round up. You never want to round down because if you round down, it may be too tight and too uncomfortable, and you want to be able to have a little bit of movement in your legs. So even if it's just above 15, I would still recommend rounding up. So once you've determined your seat width, which by the way is the main way you're going to determine the size of seat you're selecting, then you want to fine tune your selection a little bit more. To do that, we want to measure your seat height. So have a friend help you, but while sitting on a table, you're going to measure from the surface to the top of your shoulders. That's going to give you that seat height measurement. Any seat manufacturer that you look on, they're going to have different seating measurements, so fine tune what works best for your body.
So you have measured, you have found the right seat. How do you know that you got it right? How do you want it to feel?
When you're in the race car, you want to feel like it's pretty snug. When you're going through a corner, you don't want to feel too much side-to-side movement. You want to feel like it's giving you a nice tight squeeze.
So we talked about rounding up your measurement. How do you fill in if you do feel like it's too loose?
So rounding up is important, right? But we want to sometimes fill in because maybe our shoulders are a little bit too loose. So while you're sitting in the seat, have a friend help you, but you're going to grab a couple pads and fill in those spots that feel like you're lacking a little bit of support.
So how should it feel then once you hit the track in your new seat? How do you know that you got it just right?
Really just kind of having all points of contact on your body is going to be quite important to feeling like you're the most stable as you can in the seat.
And what happens if you get it wrong? What happens if you are too loose?
So I've actually done that. Once I added way too much padding behind me, and it actually brought me out of the seat, and I was sliding so far side to side. I was at a nice position to the pedals, but my side to side movement was way too much, and I made mistakes with my shifting. So that's something you really want to avoid.
Okay, thank you, Loni. Thanks to everybody for watching.